I, Gaius Flavius Vitulius, former centurion of the 7th Legion, pen these words with a trembling hand, while I can still recall who I am. Sand, endless sand, that is what remains of my life. 3 days ago I lay among the dead at Actium. My brothers in arms, those who still breathed, cried out, pleading with Vulcan for a swift death. Yet the gods turned their backs on us that day. The sea, stained crimson with blood, cast me ashore as one might discard a bone. I journeyed westward, toward what I hoped would be the Libyan road. But the desert is a deceiver. It lures with mirages. Here are the shadows of palms, there the walls of a city. But as one approaches closer, all that remains are rocks and desiccated bones. On the 3rd day, I beheld a temple, not majestic like that in Alexandria, but half-ruined, as if it had been forgotten since the time of the earliest pharaohs. The columns, cracked and grotesque hybrids of Roman and Egyptian masonry, and between them, he, the Sphinx, but not the one who stands in Giza. This one was different. His body, a lion's, powerful, cloaked not in sand, but in something resembling dark scales. His visage, neither human nor beast, but akin to a cast from a Roman theatrical mask, blank, devoid of expression, yet his eyes held knowledge. He was not stone. As I drew closer, his chest slowly rose. He was breathing. "You are dying," he spoke. His voice was reminiscent of a creaking door in an abandoned house. I was not surprised that he spoke in Latin. At that moment nothing could astonish me any more. "Yes," I replied, "I shall grant you life, for a price." "What price?" "Unravel my riddle." I nodded. A thought flickered in my mind. This is a trap. But to a dying man it mattered little. "What belongs to you but is used more often by others?" I pondered. The wind stirred my cracked lips. "A name," I finally uttered. The Sphinx froze. Then he laughed. "Correct. And now I shall call you for eternity." And then I felt it, as if an icy finger traced my spine, as though something slithered into my mind and coiled there. I wanted to scream, but my voice betrayed me, and the Sphinx vanished. Only then did I realize he had not departed. He had simply entered me. I do not know if he was a god, a demon, or merely a nightmare birthed from my dying mind. But when his voice first echoed within my head, I understood. It was not a hallucination. I collapsed to my knees before the fading silhouette of the Sphinx. Yet the sand beneath me no longer scorched my skin. The heat subsided, as if the very sun had retreated before this being. My ears rang and my mouth tasted of copper, as though I had bitten my tongue, though I had no recollection of doing so. "You answered correctly," the voice whispered. But it did not resonate from without. It emanated from within, as if someone spoke through my very memories. "Thus our agreement stands." I attempted to rise, but my body would not obey. "What agreement?" I rasped. "You wished to live. I granted you life, but now your name is mine." I laughed. It sounded mad even to my own ears. "Take it. I possess neither home nor legion. What does the name of a forsaken soldier matter to anyone?" The Sphinx, if it still was he and not something that had settled within my skull, did not respond immediately. The wind suddenly stilled, and in that silence his words rang clear, like the clash of a sword against a shield. "You do not understand. A name is not merely a word, it is what you leave behind, a shadow that endures beyond flesh. Now that you have bestowed it upon me, I shall whisper it in the darkness until the last who remembered you turns to dust." I felt something brush against my thoughts, not roughly, but as if fingers strummed the strings of a lyre. Suddenly visions ignited before my eyes. Rome, I had seen it, though I had never been to the city. The narrow streets of Subura, where my name would be murmured in the alleyways. The Forum, where it would spill from foreign lips. The Appian Way, where... The vision vanished as swiftly as it had appeared. "What have you done?" I whispered. "Displayed the future." I journeyed north, consumed by obsession. My legs, battered by jagged rocks, felt no pain. My lips, chapped from the searing heat, did not plead for water. I was no longer human. I was a vessel inhabited by something else. The desert did not release me easily. For 3 nights I traversed beneath the stars until I stumbled upon a caravan of Numidian traders. They took me for a madman, and they were right. When one of them asked my name, I opened my mouth, and he answered for me. Gaius Flavius Vitulius emerged from my lips, yet the voice was not my own. It was hollow, as if echoing from the depths of a well. The merchant crossed himself and stepped back. No one spoke to me again, but at night I felt their frightened glances upon me, like I had already become a spectre. Ostia greeted me with the stench of rotting seaweed and the cries of seagulls. I secured passage on a ship bound for Rome, having rowed my way aboard. The oarsmen, drenched in sweat and salt, glanced at me askance. "You're too cold for the living," one muttered, accidentally brushing my hand. I said nothing. After all, he was already whispering in my mind. They sense it. Soon everyone will sense it. Rome. The city welcomed me with the clamor of the crowd, the aroma of roasted chestnuts and voices. At first I thought it was merely a ringing in my ears, but no. Somewhere down an alley, a child shouted, "Guy!" I turned, yet no one called my name. At the fountain in the Forum, 2 matrons were whispering, and among their words I caught Vitulius. And at night, as I lay in a cheap tavern, the shadows on the wall formed a familiar silhouette. The Sphinx watched and waited. I sought the priests. The College of Pontiffs welcomed me into the sanctuary of Vesta. The high priest, a man with a face etched with wrinkles, listened to my story and paled. "You have spoken your name to the Lord of the Threshold," he whispered. "This ancient entity is older than the oldest gods. It feeds on names, not mere words, but the very essence of those who bear them. How can I rid myself of it?" The priest shook his head. "You have already begun to forget, have you not? Your childhood, your parents' names. Soon you will forget what you look like. And then..." He left his sentence unfinished, but I understood. He would become me. I have begun to forget. At first, the trivial details. How old my sister is, the smell of smoke from my father's hearth. Then, the important things. The face of my mother. The name of the first person I killed. And one morning, I awoke not recognizing my own reflection. Attempt number 1. To burn the name. I locked myself in a rented room at the foot of the Aventine and scratched on a clay tablet. Gaius Flavius Vitulius. "Do you think this will help?" He laughed within my mind. I hurled the tablet into the brazier. The wax ignited. The flames licked the letters. But instead of vanishing, they darkened and grew clearer. Smoke coiled into rings, and within it, I saw lion eyes. Attempt number 2, to become no one. In the port tavern, already familiar with my madness, I proclaimed, "Call me nobody." The sailors exchanged glances. One clapped me on the shoulder. "As you wish, Guy." I said, "You said, call me Guy." Another frowned. In horror, I looked at them. "Do you hear him?" But in their eyes, I only saw pity. Attempt number 3, to find someone who remembers. I located an old comrade from the Legion in Subura, Lucius Cornelius Dentatus. Admit it. You remember that I have brown eyes. I seized his tunic. Lucius carefully pulled away. You have yellow eyes, Guy, like a sick dog. When I peered into a copper mirror, he laughed. The climax of madness. The final straw was a dream. I stood on the Appian Way, surrounded by gnawed bones. These are those who bore your name before you, whispered the Sphinx. I awoke with a scream. My hands were covered in gray fuzz. When I attempted to shave it off, the razor glided across my skin, leaving neither blood nor pain. I stopped sleeping. Rather, I could no longer distinguish between dreams and reality. The moment I closed my eyes, I saw him, and when I opened them, he remained. The first night, shadows, I awoke to whispers. In the corner of my chamber, where the darkness was deeper than usual, something stirred. Guy. I gripped the straw mattress with my fingers. Go away. The shadow trembled, as if stirred by a non-existent wind. You called for me. You gave me a name. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the shadow extended across the wall, taking on lion-like contours. The second night, the mirror. In the tavern where I now resided, there was an old copper mirror. I glanced into it and saw him. My features swam like wax above a flame. My eyes had turned entirely yellow, my nose flattened, my mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. I screamed and struck the mirror. It shattered. In every shard was my face, and they all laughed. The third night, flesh, I awoke from pain. My legs were seized by cramping, but it was not ordinary agony. The skin on my ankles cracked, revealing something hard and scaly. I seized an oil lamp and brought it closer. Claws, small, translucent, yet already undeniably present. I tried to tear them away, and howled. They were part of me. Laughter echoed from the corner. I turned around. He was sitting there, real, solid mine. Soon, the Sphinx said, you will cease to fear. The last night. The name, I could no longer bear it. I ran through the darkened streets of Rome, shouting, I am not Guy, I am not Guy. The alleys echoed back, Guy, Guy, Guy. Before the temple of Jupiter, I fell to my knees. Take him, take my name. Silence. Then he spoke, but not from without, from within. I have already taken it. I lifted my head. On the temple steps sat me, with yellow eyes, with claws, with a smile, and he nodded at me. This will be the last I write. The ink is my blood. The parchment is a scrap of cloak. Time is running out. He has almost won. The catacombs. I descended into the sewers of Rome, those dark, fetid tunnels where even street gang fighters dared not touch me. They recoiled from me, crossed themselves, murmured, Demon. I could scarcely see the humanity left in my reflection in the dirty water. My eyes, vertical pupils, my skin pale with a gray tinge, my nails hard curved. I shouted into the darkness, Show yourself, and the darkness answered. The final dialogue from the shadows, he emerged. More accurately, me, the one I was becoming, the Sphinx with my face. Why do you run? He asked. His voice sounded like my own, but correct. How it should have been. I do not want to disappear. You will not disappear. You will become a legend. He took a step forward. Is this not what all soldiers want? To have their name remembered? I clenched my fists. Claws dug into my palms, but there was no blood. I do not want such a memory. The Sphinx smiled. But you have already consented. The final choice. I drew a dagger. If I die, you will vanish. Try. I plunged the blade into my chest, but there was no substance. My hand passed through flesh as though it were smoke. The Sphinx laughed. "You're no longer human, Guy. You're a word, and words do not kill." I understood. Too late. The final words, "I write this in darkness." My fingers harden, my vision sharpens. I feel everyone who utters my name. They do not realize they are summoning me. Soon I will emerge to the surface. Soon I will wait along the Appian Way. Soon someone else will decipher my riddle, and then I will be free, discovered among the ruins of the Temple of Isis near the Appian Way date. October 15th, 2023. Dr. Mark Emiliano, Institute of Archaeology, University of Rome. Field Journal. Entry. Today we uncovered something inexplicable. Beneath layers of ash and clay, concealed within a niche sealed since the 1st century BCE, lay a wax tablet. The inscription had nearly faded, yet infrared scanning revealed the text. "I have unraveled the riddle of the Sphinx, and now it follows me." Signed, Gaius F5. A peculiar coincidence. Last night my assistant, who had been examining the artifact, awoke to the sound of someone whispering his name in the empty laboratory. I laughed at his fears, until I saw the imprints in the sand surrounding the excavation site. Footprints, not human. P.S. As I conclude this entry, a whisper echoed through the corridor. "What belongs to you but is used more by others? I know the answer, but I dare not speak it."